I'm noticing everyone has a different opinion on the handling of Volkanovski Ortega. And here's what John McCarthy and Josh Thompson had to say.
Why is it that people can't go, man, thank God that wasn't stopped, because I got 2 more rounds of an incredible fight, a fight of the year candidate. In fact, I'm going to go back to the last fight of the year winner, which was Weili Zhang against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And if you go back, I believe it was either the second or the third round, Joanna lit her up. And you watched Weili's corner actually went and picked her up and carried her back to her corner. So where was the outcry with Keith Peterson when he didn't do something about that? It was a great fight, and it stayed a great fight. It was the fight of the year. And guess what with this one? I think this is probably going to be the fight of the year, or it will at least be in contention. Now, look, in the rule set, it's supposed to be that the corner cannot pick up and carry the fighter back to their corner. But I'm going to give you a little bit of, Brian was in his corner. That all happened at the end, right in his corner. So when they're going in and he's laying down there, yes, they did pick him up. Could Herb have done something? He could have, but he's also looking, saying he's in the corner. They didn't pick him up and carry him across the ring or the cage or anything like that. He was actually where he's supposed to be. I'm not telling you. I have stopped fights when, Vadim Nemkov. Look, Vadim Nemkov couldn't get up off of the mat to go to his corner. I called the fight on him because I wouldn't let his cornerman touch him. But your referee has got to call that. And if he doesn't call it, they touch him and pick him up. Well, you're kind of stuck then because you didn't do your job with it. So I want to say, Herb, thank you for not doing that and allowing that fight to go on. I actually thought Herb did a really good job as far as the way he handled a lot of that. He handled it well. People were complaining also about the time after with the doctor and stuff because, he was hurt. You took time away from, look, that's fighting. I'm just going to tell you, rounds in MMA, yes, we get a 1-minute break. Okay, but if you're in a big fight like that or on TV or in pay-per-view, Bellator, PFL, UFC, when it's on TV, they take more time. Okay, we have a guy at Bellator, Mike Sarnowski. He's the stage manager, and he's giving the official the ability to when to start the fight. The official doesn't get that call. It's because there's TV stuff going on. So most of the time, that round is actually somewhere in the area of a minute 13, a minute 15 is the break in big fights like that because there's more talk. There's all this stuff going on. And so, that was longer. That was, it took more time, but that's called for the health and safety of the fighter. They're going to take that time.
Yeah, the thing is, though, too, they're going to do that normally at the end of his break, so he has time to talk with his coaches. He has time to recover. Then they do it at the end of the 1-minute break, so then it doesn't interrupt any game planning, because then it's like, you just had the doctor, and I didn't get a chance to get water. I didn't get a chance to talk to my corners.
And it's also, this is what we call trying to be fair. Volkanovski's over here. He's getting Eugene Berriman to talk to him, to give him, something, as far as, hey, I want you to do this. He's getting information from him. He's getting the water. He's having the cut man work on it. If you do it during the break, you're making it unfair because one person is getting everything that they're supposed to be getting while the other person is now having to sit there or stand there and talk to a doctor. They're not getting any information. They're not getting worked on at all. All it is for the doctors, good in getting information on whether I'm going to allow the fight to, continue or I'm going to stop it. So, we do it at the end so it's even for both fighters to be able to talk to their corners, get that attention from the cut man, get that water, do the things that are their time, and then we'll use that timeout break period in between it to now try to make it to where the doctor can have time.
Yeah, I said Herb did a good job because, look, as a fighter, from a fighter's perspective,
you're asking
I'm here. I'm asking. I need more time, or I want. Here, the other thing is, I'm somebody who is. I'm in my world title fight, and you're basically gonna stop the fight because I was already in my corner. I decided to lay there until my coaches came in and just picked me up and said, "Hey, get up, sit up here." That's that type of stuff, maybe he didn't know where he was. You can make excuses for him all you guys want. You can say the things that you want to help make the argument biased for you. But the thing is, though, is for me as a fan, and not only just as a former fighter, but also as a fan of the sport, I'm glad we got more rounds. I'm glad I got to see Brian Ortega fight more. I'm glad I got to see that. That was a fucking fantastic fight. Right. Look, I had it being a little bit more one-sided also. And people were like, yeah, it was a one-sided fight. You know, it should have been over. And this and that. I said, yeah, but it was sure, it was one-sided on the scorecards. But at any moment, that fight could have changed. And we saw that in the third round. Yeah, exactly. That fight could have been over at any moment with Brian Ortega's grappling, the way he is on the neck, his darces, his guillotines, all of those things, his triangle, T-City, baby. Like, we could have seen all that. It could have been, that would have, think about this. Think about if he would have got the submission in the 5th round with like 10 seconds left. Everyone would have been, we would have never have seen moments like that. We've seen that. We just talked about it earlier. Yeah. Robert Whiteford, when he fought Sam Cecilia, he was losing that fight.
All the way up until that point.
That last 6 seconds, you know, it was a 30-second, he rocked him, but the last 6 seconds, he ends up knocking him out with 6 seconds left on the clock in the fight to win the fight. That's the type of stuff that makes like legendary fights.
And here's what Chael Sonnen thought about it.
Dana was weighing in on Brian Ortega versus Volkanovski, and Dana said, I thought the corner should have stopped the fight after the 4th round. That 5th round never should have happened, and this is Dana still talking, but then Ortega went out and won the 5th round. So what are we talking about here, right? I mean, there's some bad decisions that can get you a good outcome. There's some good decisions that can get you a bad outcome, right? It's not wonderful to go out and gamble, but that doesn't mean you're not going to win and have a good outcome. Do you see what I'm saying here? So I don't know that we should explain and justify Ortega being sent out for the 5th round just because he won the 5th round. I have always maintained, as soon as your athlete can no longer win, you got to get him out of there. You are stuck with, how do you know? How do you know? You ask him, you talk to him, he says he wants to go on. You've been in the trenches with him, even in the practice room. You've got to defer to his judgment, at least somewhat. There still has to be an adult in the room that needs to step in. And I will tell you, I don't know if I had the same opinion in that. I don't know that I believed they were going to, this being the corner, was going to stop the fight prior to the 5th round. Let me reword this. I don't know that I thought they should have stopped it prior to the 5th round. I did believe they were going to stop it. When Ortega came to that stool and the way he sat down and the exhaustion that he was having, in conjunction with how the fight was already scored. At this point, going into the 5th round, guys, don't forget, Volkanovski no longer has to beat Ortega. He just has to beat the clock. That's a very good position for Alex. That's very bad for Ortega. Alex does not need to hit you. He does not even need to engage with you. He doesn't need to do a damn thing. He just needs to run out the clock. So you are left with, why send my guy out there unless I think he's got that Hail Mary pass in him?
Dana White feels Ortega shouldn't have been allowed to continue, but was impressed that he went on to win a round after previously looking diminished. Herb Dean, the referee in charge of that fight, says, basically at the end of the round it was exhaustion, I think. He had given it his all. Then the physician comes in and medically clears him and says he's clear. Some of his answers weren't exactly clear, but then he looked at me and gave clear answers like, yes, I can see. I want to continue. And as you can see, he was then ready to compete again. So we'll give him another chance. He got out there and did what he was supposed to do. The fight was definitely close to being stopped. At the end of the round, he was exhausted and he made it through the round. I think that a fighter has the right to make that decision after the rest period. He made it through the rest period. His problem was he was tired, so I think getting a minute of rest would be the best thing for him, and he has the right to make that decision then. Of course, Alexander Volkanovski felt differently, and here's what he had to say. You're not allowed to do that. It's a TKO. The ref stops the fight because the cornermen aren't allowed to aid your fighter. Lifting him up and putting him on the stool, he stayed down like he didn't want to get up. He thought it was over. with the biased commentary and them throwing shit like that, it made me feel like there was a lot of bias from all angles. So that's gonna need to change. I might need to be more vocal about it. Obviously, he's American and all that, but I don't know. That's all I can go with right now, but that belt ain't going nowhere. They've just got to jump on board and get over it. Some of that stuff they did after the 3rd round and 4th round, giving him extra time. Not only did they help him up and do all that shit, the doctor wanted to stop it, but Herb was giving him all the time in the world to recover and waited until he answered the question right. He got every question wrong before that. He was looking the wrong way, you name it. He had a whole extra minute on top of that. There was a lot of people doing him favors through that fight, I feel, especially after watching it back. Giving him that time to recover and all, that's bullshit. But what do you do?